The Galactic Council chamber was full. All species, from the cold-blooded reptilians of Rithax to the soft-winged dreamers of Velmari, sat in silence. Tension wrapped the air like thick smoke. Eyes darted, whispers echoed. Something was wrong. Something was coming. Then it happened. A shadow fell across the chamber's grand window. A ship arrived, black as space itself, silent like the grave. It wasn't a transport. It wasn't here for peace. It was a warship. It hovered outside the window, blocking the twin suns. Everyone inside felt the cold chill of fear. The ship made no greeting, no message, not a word. Then the doors opened. A single figure stepped in. Tall, human, wrapped in dark armor with a symbol none had seen in 2 centuries. His boots echoed as he walked toward the central table. No guard stopped him. No one dared move. He placed a device on the table. "You already made your choice," the human said, his voice low but sharp. "We're here to finish it." Then, he turned and walked away. The device beeped. A screen lit up. A countdown began. Gasps filled the air. Chaos followed. "What is this?" shouted the Rithax general. "Shut it down," screamed the Velmari diplomat. But no one could stop it. The countdown ticked on, second by second. The human was gone. A Willerian technician, shaking, scanned the device. "It's locked. It's coded in old Earth binary." "Impossible," said the council leader. "Earth has been gone for 200 years. The chamber darkened. Holograms appeared, swirling with old data. Images of Earth before. It vanished, cities burning, ships fleeing, signals begging for help. The last message ever received from Earth flashed in red. "You have chosen to abandon us. Remember this day." The council members fell silent. 200 years ago, Earth had begged for aid. Their climate was collapsing. Resources had run dry. War was tearing their world apart. Earth asked for help, diplomatic, environmental, economic. The council had voted. Earth was denied. The decision was simple at the time. Earth was considered unstable, too dangerous, too primitive. So they stripped Earth of all rights, shut down its stations, pulled back trade, and left it to rot. Then, Earth vanished. No signals, no ships, no trace. Many believed humanity had died. Out. But now they were back. The Velmari ambassador, a being of glowing skin and gentle eyes, trembled as she looked at the ticking clock. "Is this revenge?" The countdown read 714213 in orbit. Thousands of ships began to move. No warning, no message. Just slow, perfect formation. The council scrambled. Messages were sent. Scans ran hot. Defense systems activated. But the warships didn't attack. They just waited. In silence, the reptilian general hissed, "They want us afraid!" "They've succeeded," whispered someone. In a side chamber, 3 delegates huddled, their faces pale. One of them, a younger member from the new Solari Order, asked, "What if they rebuilt, in hiding?" "Impossible," said another. "No one can survive alone for 2 centuries." But the truth was already crawling into their minds. What if Earth had evolved beyond them? What if humanity had not died, but changed? The Velmari ambassador stared at the stars, at the ship blocking the suns. "They were angry," she whispered, "and we left them to burn." The council tried everything. They sent calls to the human ship. No response. They sent diplomats. No entry. They sent threats. Still nothing. The countdown ticked. 58, 49. Back in the Great Chamber, arguments broke out. Plans were made. Some wanted to strike the human fleet now. Others demanded peace. Some wept. None could agree. Meanwhile, outside, the warships shifted. One by one, massive cannons extended. Shields formed. It was clear. This was not a message. This was judgment. The oldest council member, a creature from the Mathari ice moons, closed his eyes. They gave us a choice. We chose to turn our backs. The others looked to him. And now? The Illyrian technician asked. The old one opened his eyes. Now we learn what they became. In the sky, a single ship began to move toward the surface, larger than the others, sleek, dark, silent, a weapon. Inside the chamber, alarms began to blare. The countdown hit 7801 and the lights went out. "Why didn't we destroy Earth when we had the chance?" screamed Councillor Varn of the Cathari swarm. His voice echoed through the emergency chamber. The lights above flickered as if afraid to stay on too long. Outside, in the cold vacuum of neutral space, the human war fleet moved. No signals. No greetings. No words, just presence. Thousands of ships. Dark, sharp, silent. Formed in perfect formation, like a spear aimed at the heart of the galaxy. Inside the council station, chaos ruled. Delegates argued. Some shouted for defense. Others demanded negotiations. But no one knew who to talk to. The humans weren't answering. They weren't even looking their way. Ambassador Liera of the Velmari stood still, her glowing skin dim with fear. She whispered, "They are not here to speak." Councillor Varn turned to her. "Then what are they here for?" She didn't answer. In another chamber, deep underground, records from 2 centuries ago played. Grainy footage. Flickering sound. A human ambassador stood in the center of the council floor. He wore a suit, no armor. His voice was calm, tired, desperate. "We come in peace," he had said. "We ask for help, not just for us, but for our children, for our home. Earth is dying. We can't stop it alone." The council had listened. Then they had voted, and Earth was denied. No resources, no aid, no protection. Humanity was left to die. One council member had even laughed during the vote. "Let the savages burn," he had said. "They are not ready for peace." Now, 200 years later, humanity had returned. But this time, no one was laughing. In the central war room, the Galactic Council's high command gathered. A map of the region blinked, red. Human ships had crossed into neutral space, space once shared between member species. No alerts were sent. No borders were respected. They just came. General Threx of the Mathari pounded the table with his claw. "This is an act of war," High Chancellor Kiro of the Wailirian calmly replied. "No shots have been fired." Councillor Varn barked, "Yet!" Young assistant ran into the room, shaking. "The outer defense satellites have gone dark. No damage detected, no interference. They're just not there." "What do you mean, not there?" General Threx growled. "They're gone, sir. Like they were never built." A cold silence filled the room. Ambassador Liera whispered again, "Humans don't speak now. They act." In the observatory dome, ships filled the view. More than any species had ever built. Their surfaces were smooth, dark metal. No insignia, no visible weapons. But the power in their silence was terrifying. 200 years of quiet, 200 years of exile. No one had heard a word from Earth since the vote, until now. General Threx spoke again, slower this time. "We believed they were broken, that they would fade. But instead, they disappeared and rebuilt." "Into what?" asked Chancellor Kiro. No one answered. In the Velmari archives, a historian watched the old records. She paused the image of the human ambassador from long ago. His eyes were tired, his hands shaking. Still, he had stood with dignity. She leaned closer. On his jacket was a small pin, a blue and green world. Earth. She tapped the console, pulled. Up later footage. The council chambers after the vote, the human ambassador being escorted out. His face hard, jaw clenched. He had turned at the doors and said one final sentence. "You will remember this." The historian's wings fluttered. She looked out the window at the human ships. "We forgot," she whispered. But they didn't. The outer rim of the Council's territory near the edge of the ancient Dixon Belt, a satellite spun quietly. It watched the stars. It listened for signals. It had done so for 300 years. Without a sound, without a flash, the satellite exploded. One moment it was there. The next, it wasn't. No signal, no alarm, no warning, just gone. Back at the Council station, sirens flared. A single technician shouted, "One of our monitoring satellites has vanished." "Vanished how?" shouted Chancellor Kiro. "No data, no energy signature. It didn't malfunction. It was erased." Panic spread. "It's a warning," someone said. "No," said Ambassador Lyra. "It's not a warning. It's a message." "What kind of message?" She looked up at the fleet still hovering silently in space. "They're showing us what they can do." Without lifting a finger, a deep voice cut through the room. It belonged to Councillor Dren, the only one who had voted for Earth's aid 200 years ago. His skin was gray now, his eyes sunken. He stood with great effort. "You all called them primitive, said they were violent, but I watched them. I knew their hearts." He looked at the map. "We turned our backs when they asked for peace. We ignored their pain. And now," he looked around the chamber, "now we see what becomes of a people left to suffer alone." The lights flickered again. The countdown, still ticking, flashed across every screen. 1945 outside. The ships didn't move. They didn't need to. Inside the chamber, fear spread like a virus. Delegates from dozens of species sent private messages to their homeworlds. Evacuation plans, military alerts, emergency bunkers. Some whispered of surrender, others spoke of war. But no one had answers. The humans had returned, and they were not the same. 200 years of silence had turned them into something else. Something beyond diplomacy, beyond trade, beyond fear. Now, they were something the Council didn't understand, and something they could no longer control. The leak hit every network in the galaxy at once. A single encrypted message, bouncing across satellites, bouncing through comm stations and data hubs, impossible to trace. Inside was a file. It wasn't long, just a few lines of text, a video clip, and a Council vote record marked classified, never to be released. But that was enough. It told the story no one was supposed to know. 200 years ago, after Earth had asked for aid, after they were denied, after they were abandoned to their suffering, the Council held another vote. Not public, not official, just powerful beings in a room, far away from eyes and laws. They voted to strip Earth completely, not just trade rights. They voted to take what was left. Oceans, minerals, water, reserves, raw metals buried under Earth's burning crust. They had sent quiet fleets, disguised as survey ships, not to help, but to harvest. They called it salvage. The people of Earth were left to starve while their planet was picked apart. The vote passed, quietly, without debate. Now the file was out. The journalist's name was unknown. The transmission used a human code signature, but the origin was untraceable. In a matter of hours, the galaxy changed. On peaceful worlds like Velmaris, protesters filled the glowing cities. Velmari citizens, usually calm, thoughtful, gathered in silence under the twin moons. Their signs read, "Trust is dead, and not in our name." In the methane-filled streets of Kether, riots broke out. Fires blazed in the fog. Crowds smashed statues of their leaders. Kethari guards refused to shoot. On the icy moons of Methari, citizens blocked access to government towers, freezing themselves to the stone until someone answered. Even on distant colonies, the message was clear. The Council lied, and Earth suffered because of it. In the Grand Council Hall, chaos ruled. "We must deny it," shouted Councillor Varn. "We cannot deny what is already seen," replied Ambassador Lyra. "This will destroy us." "No," said the old Councillor Dren. "We already destroyed us. 200 years ago, when we chose greed over help." Holograms flickered above the table, showing a map of the human fleet, still in neutral space, still silent, still waiting. "Councillor." Varn slammed his fist on the table. "They leaked this. It's a move. They want the people to turn on us." "Can you blame them?" someone whispered. Meanwhile, on a lonely world called Solace 9, far from the Council, another story played. Out. A boy stood under a red sky watching his city burn. Smoke choked the air. Buildings fell, the ground cracked. The oceans had pulled back weeks ago, drained, poisoned, stolen. Ships left in the sky, but none came down. No help, no food. Just the whine of harvest drills and the cries of the dying. His mother wrapped her arms around him. Blood stained her hands. "Close your eyes, Ron," she whispered. "Don't look." But he looked, and he remembered. Even as a child, he felt something change inside him. Not hate, not yet, but something colder, a sharpness. It stayed with him. He grew up on scraps, under the ruins of old cities. When the harvesters left and the sky was clear, he trained. He studied old records. He studied war. Other survivors found each other. Groups formed. Then cities. Then governments. Quiet. Hidden. Beneath the ash. They never sent signals. They never reached out. They remembered. They rebuilt. And when the time came, they followed a man who had never forgotten what the Council did. His name was Ran. Now they called him Commander. The command center of the lead human ship was dark, lit only by cold blue lines along the walls. Screens showed movement, ship status, fleet position. But Commander Ran wasn't looking at them. He stood at the window, watching the stars, watching the Council territory beyond the line. A young officer approached. "Sir, the file reached every major system. Civil unrest has begun. Do we respond?" Ron didn't move. "No," the officer hesitated. "But they're breaking down. We wait." Another officer called from a console. "Council satellite destroyed last cycle. Their sensor grid's blind. They still think..." "We're just waiting." Ron nodded. "Let them think." His voice was calm, steady, not loud, not angry. But when he spoke, everyone listened. He turned from the window, walking through the command deck. His officers stepped aside. Most of them were born after the fall, raised in underground schools, taught history in whispers. All of them believed in the silence that followed betrayal. But now, Commander Ran was ready to break it. In the council chamber, diplomats argued. Plans were made, others were broken. No one could agree on what to do. Send a message, send ships, apologize, hide, and then every council screen blinked. The feed cut. The room went black. Then a single image filled the air. A man. Human. Dark armor. Eyes sharp, voice low. "Commander Ran." He stared into the camera. Calm. "You tried peace," he said. The chamber froze. Then you broke it. You tore it apart with greed and silence. You took what wasn't yours. You left us to die. His voice never rose. It didn't need to. And now, he continued, we break the silence. The feed ended. The room stayed quiet. No one moved. Outside, the human fleet began to shift. Formations changed. Shapes realigned. They weren't waiting anymore. They were preparing. In the lower cities of council worlds, sirens began to wail, and the countdown ticked on. Taku. Far beyond the last border post of the Galactic Council, new ships appeared. Not on radar, not through any known jump gate. They simply arrived. They were pure black, no lights, no signals, no markings. They didn't show up on normal scans. They had no heat signatures, no identifiable engines. They didn't even reflect starlight properly. They looked like shadows, long, sharp, and cold. The council called them unknown vessels. The press called them ghosts. The fleet didn't move fast. It crept along the edge of council space like a silent storm. Observatories across, multiple systems turned to track them. Scientists tried to scan them. Every scan came back with the same message. Unknown energy. Unknown origin. Unknown intent. In the Grand Council chamber, panic was back in full force. Leaders from across the galaxy watched the growing data. Satellite images showed the black ships hovering just outside inhabited systems. Silent. Watching. Counselor. Vaughn shouted again, his voice cracking. "We need to strike first! Before it's too late." Ambassador Liera didn't speak. She just stared at the display of the ghost fleet. Her eyes glowed dimmer than usual. Her kind had never known fear like this. One delegate asked quietly, "What are those ships?" Nobody had an answer. But someone, somewhere, remembered. Deep in the hidden records of the Council's intelligence division, there was a file long buried. Only a few eyes had seen it. It was titled, Project Silent Forge. Decades ago, just after Earth's final signal went dark, a strange pattern began in the outer galaxy. Drones, satellites, and probes disappeared. Odd gravitational pulls were detected in the edges of space. Small objects, metal, old tech, vanished from forgotten asteroid fields. Council spies, the few brave enough to enter dead space, whispered of hidden shipyards. Black stations surrounded by defense grids too advanced to break. Strange energy pulses. Massive structures drifting near cold stars. All silent. All untraceable. At the time, the Council ignored it. Earth was finished, they said. Even if survivors existed, they had no power, no future. Why bother? But the spies knew better. The humans were building something, not in orbit, not on a planet, in deep space, places where light never reached. They called it the Silent Forge. It wasn't a shipyard. It wasn't a base. It was a dream born from ashes. The dream of never being helpless again. Now, those ships had arrived. In the skies of the Metari homeworld, a flash of light blinked high above the moons. One of the ghost ships moved closer. It didn't speak. It didn't fire. It simply hovered. The Metari defense grid locked onto it. Missiles were loaded, targets tracked, but none dared to give the order because the ship didn't act like a threat. It acted like a judge. In the Council's war room, new reports came in. Power failures in border stations, sensor blindness, shields weakening without cause, systems going offline for no reason. Techs were baffled. Commanders screamed. "They're using something we don't understand," one scientist cried. Then, "Figure it out," a general yelled. But the truth was becoming clear. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just advanced, it was beyond current science. It bent rules that hadn't been broken before. It moved in ways that shouldn't be possible. It stayed invisible when it wanted to, and solid when it chose to be seen. And it was watching. In an abandoned station on a forgotten moon, a former council spy named Marek sat in silence, watching a private feed from a drone he launched long ago. He had gone dark years back, after being dismissed. He had tried to warn them. No one had listened. Now he saw it. Close-up images of one of the ghost ships. The hull shifted like liquid metal. Symbols glowed faintly, not in any known language, but something old, not alien, human. Marek lit a single light and recorded his last message. To the ones who called them primitive. They are not. They never were. We broke their world. Now they've built a new one without us. He ended the recording and waited. Above him, the stars shifted. A ghost ship passed overhead. In the city of Darun on the planet Alexis, a normal day turned into horror. The power died, not just a blackout, total failure. The central grid collapsed. Emergency systems didn't activate. Hospitals lost energy. Transit stopped. Gravity control flickered. Screens went dark. Communications froze. The entire city of 8 million beings fell into silence. From orbit, observers saw a faint blue line stretch from one of the ghost ships to the planet. One single blast. No explosion. No heat. Just silence. As if the city had been erased from the grid. Technicians tried to restart systems. Nothing worked. It wasn't just shut down, it was gone. Back in the council chamber, the alert came in. Planetary grid failure. Alexis. One pulse. "What kind of weapon is that?" someone screamed, but there was no answer. Councillor Dren stood slowly. He looked tired, but calm. "It's not a weapon." "What do you mean?" "It's a test." Everyone turned to him. "They're not attacking yet. They're showing us what they could do, and what we can't stop." Chancellor Kiro asked, "Then what do we do now?" Dren looked out the window, at the edge of space where stars were vanishing behind the black ships. "We pray they still. No mercy." In the command ship of the Ghost Fleet, Commander Ron watched the report from Alexis. One pulse. No casualties. No deaths. Just silence. He nodded. "Let them feel powerless," he said softly. "Let them feel what we did." "No," one cheered. This wasn't war for glory. This was judgment. And the silence was only beginning. The meeting was not on any official schedule. No records, no guards, no witnesses. Only silence and old memories. Commander Ron stood inside a dark chamber on the moon of Virel, where ancient ships once docked long ago. He wore no helmet now, no armor over his chest, just a black coat and tired eyes. He waited. The door slid open with a whisper. Light poured in briefly, then faded as the figure stepped through. Councillor Irian, older now, thinner, a slight limp in his walk. But his eyes still held the same kindness, the same sorrow. Ron didn't move. "You came," the counselor said. "I remember," Ron replied. Arian nodded slowly. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't." They stood in silence for a moment. No guards, no weapons. Just two people connected by a moment long ago. "You remember me?" Arian asked. Ron looked at him. "You were there, on Earth. You didn't wear the council robes back then, just a blue jacket. You pulled me from the wreckage, gave me water, put me on the evac ship. I tried to save more," Arian whispered. "I couldn't." "You saved one boy," Ron said. His voice had no anger, but it carried weight. "But the council killed his people." Arian lowered his head. "Yes, we did." Another silence. "I thought saving you meant something," Arian said. "That maybe one life could be enough. But I was wrong. One life is not enough when millions are lost." Ron stepped closer. "Do you remember what I said to you on that ship?" Arian closed his eyes, trying to recall. "You were cold. Hurt. You said nothing." "I said," Ron whispered, "I would remember." Now they stood face to face. "I don't want this war," Arian said. "I believe you don't either." "I didn't come for war," Ron said. "I came for justice." But now, Ron looked away toward the stars. It's too late. Back in the council chamber, the storm had grown worse. Two sides now. One, led by Councillor Vaughn, demanded a full-scale counterattack. They wanted to use ancient weapons locked away for emergencies. They spoke of pride, of strength, of never bowing. To humans, the other side, led by Councillor Dren and Ambassador Lyra, urged surrender, or negotiation, something, anything, to stop what was coming. The chamber echoed with shouting. "They are outnumbered. They are outmatching us." They struck a power grid. "No deaths." That was a warning. Next time they won't hold. Back, Lyra shouted above them. You want to fight an enemy who built fleets in silence, who controls unknown energy, who made your systems blind without firing a shot. We are the Council, Varn yelled. We do not kneel. Then we fall, Dren said quietly. In a forgotten archive, hidden deep beneath the Council's central city, an ancient AI came online for the first time in 2 centuries. It was old, slow at first, built to store classified communications. Most of its data was ignored until now. A tech digging for clues found a file marked Earth, Final Offer. It was a transmission. Audio only. The voice was human, calm, desperate. This is Ambassador Lyra of Earth. We know the Council has taken our seas. We know your fleets are near. Still we ask, stop. Talk to us. Help us rebuild. We offer peace. One last time. The message had a timestamp. It was sent 12 hours before the Council's harvest fleet landed on Earth, and no one responded. The tech sent the file to the Council leaders. The room went silent. Someone whispered, "We never even answered them." "They begged," another said, trembling. "We didn't even answer." The file spread across Council systems, to news stations, to civilians. It was not just a war of ships now. It was a war of truth. A truth too many wanted to forget. On the moon of Varel, Irian and Ran walked slowly beneath the stars. "I told the Council you were coming," Irian said. "They didn't listen. They never listened. You can still stop this. Just say it. Say the word." Ran stopped walking. He looked up at the sky. "I've spent my whole life preparing, not for revenge, for justice, for the chance to make them see what they did. But now," he looked at Irian, "I don't think they want to see. They're afraid. They should be." A long silence. "I don't hate you," Ran said, softly. "You saved me, and I will always carry that. But you won't stop." Ran's face was like stone. "Would you?" Irian didn't answer. A small device on Ran's wrist blinked once. He tapped it. A hologram opened between them. Fleet positions, new orders, silent ships moving into attack paths. Irian looked at him. "Are you giving the order now?" Ran didn't respond. He just stared into the map. Irian reached out, placing a hand gently on Ran's arm. "Please," he said. "Don't become what they were." Ran looked at the hand, then at Irian. "I became what I needed to survive." Then he turned away. Irian watched him disappear into the dark. Back on the human flagship, the officers stood at attention. The countdown neared 0. Outside, the Ghost Fleet moved again, this time toward the heart of the Council. On every screen, across the galaxy, Commander Ran's voice echoed. "I didn't come for war. I came for justice. But now," he paused, "it's too late." The countdown showed 10 minutes. Tentfo. Across every screen in the Galactic Council's command centers, the numbers ticked down slowly, glowing red against a black background. No sound, no signal, just time slipping away. Panic spread like fire. The Council issued a full military alert. Warships scrambled. Ground bases powered up their defense grids. Fighter squadrons rose into orbit. Civilians were ordered to take shelter. The streets emptied. Lights dimmed. People watched the sky. In the Grand Council chamber, alarms blared. Generals barked orders into comms. Screens flashed fleet positions, enemy movements, energy readings. None of it helped. The Ghost Fleet stayed still, silent, watching. Councillor Varn yelled over the chaos. "This is it! We fire first!" "No!" shouted Ambassador Lyra. "We don't even know what happens at 0. It could be a bluff." "They shut down Alexis without a shot," another councillor cried. "This isn't a bluff." Irian stood in the shadows, saying nothing. His hands trembled. The countdown kept ticking. 9, 12, in a secure memory core beneath the old. Earth Embassy ruins, long abandoned, a forgotten file was accessed. A flashback. It showed a room deep underground, full of quiet tension and blinking lights. Earth's final scientists stood around a device. Small, sleek, covered in a strange alloy. "We call it the silence engine," one of them said. "Not a weapon to destroy, a weapon to stop." The others listened. "It doesn't kill. It doesn't burn. It stops motion, power, communication, like a wave of stillness." "Why build it?" someone asked. "Because if we ever come back," the lead scientist whispered, "we don't want to become monsters. Just a warning. No deaths. Just silence." That day, the weapon was sealed, and humanity vanished. Back in the present, 020645, the Council finally agreed to try negotiation. Last message was prepared. A full apology, an offer of peace, of surrender, of reparations. Irian signed the message with shaking fingers. It was transmitted on all bands, in all languages, on every channel humans once used. But there was no reply. The Ghost Fleet didn't move, didn't blink, didn't care. The countdown moved on. 0501, high above the capital planet of Sirel, Council fleets formed in layers. Thousands of ships. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, fighters, defense stations. The most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen. It looked strong, it looked ready, but no one inside felt safe. Then the wave came. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then screens flickered, shields dropped to standby, weapons went cold, communication scrambled, a low hum filled the air, ship captains screamed, engineers scrambled, generals ordered full reboots, but nothing worked. Fleet by fleet, sector by sector, the power died. Not an explosion, not an attack, just silence. The wave passed like a soft wind and left only darkness behind. On a council world in the Holvec system, a child looked up at the sky as the stars above faded. Not from clouds, not from dust, but from power grids shutting down, screens dimming, city lights dying. Her parents held her close. In orbit, the ghost ships remained, unmoving, cold, present. The countdown continued. 0130, on the human flagship, Commander Ron stood before a giant display. Behind him, his officers waited without words. They knew what came next. Ron looked out the window at the dead fleets drifting in silence. He said nothing. He only waited. The council chamber was quiet now. No shouting, no panic. Just a soft hum of backup systems and the sound of fear settling deep in the bones. Count 30, Irian stared at the countdown. The message they sent was still unanswered. The hope they clung to was slipping. Lara whispered, "What if this is it?" Irian didn't look away. "Then we deserve it." The last seconds came. 0900. 8 people across the galaxy held their breath. Parents hugged children. Soldiers clutched weapons that no longer worked. Machines shut down, lights flickered. The ghost fleet brightened, just slightly. As if acknowledging the moment. 03, 0002, 0000, and everything stopped. Time, it seemed, held its breath. No sound, no motion, no power, just stillness. Then, without fanfare, without light or sound, a single message was transmitted. One line, one voice. The voice of a human. This was a warning. The next one won't be. The ghost fleet vanished. Not in flashes of light, not in warp trails. They were simply gone, as if they had never been there at all. In the silence that followed, across hundreds of worlds, only one truth remained. Humanity had returned. And they had. Not come for revenge, they had come to make the galaxy listen. The war didn't happen. The fleets never clashed. The skies never burned. The cities still stood. But silence had done what fire could not. It broke the council. In the weeks after the countdown ended, fear spread deeper than any weapon ever could. Not a single human remained in council space. Their ships had vanished. Their message had been short, cold, and final. This was a warning. The next one won't be. The meaning was clear. The effect was worse. Planets began to question their leaders. Protests turned into demands. Demands into movements. Movements into exits. One by one, member worlds voted to leave the Council. Some claimed neutrality. Others reached out to Earth, not with offers of alliance, but with apologies. The once great Galactic Council began to crack from within. News stations showed empty council seats, resignation letters, speeches full of regret, panic, or denial. Some tried to blame each other. Others tried to rewrite the truth, but truth didn't care. It just sat there, heavy, cold. The truth was this: humanity had come back, and no one could stop them. They didn't kill. They didn't burn cities or enslave worlds. They didn't need to. They simply reminded everyone what had been done to them, and what could happen again. Commander Ron stood on the deck of his ship, the Vigil's End, orbiting the quiet blue of Earth. He hadn't spoken to the Council since the message. There had been no point. The silence was louder than words. His officers worked quietly around him. The ship was calm now. Mission complete. Ron stepped closer to the window, watching. The oceans below shimmer in the light. Earth had changed in 200 years. Cleaner, wilder, free from cities for a long time, though they were building again now, slowly. He pressed his hand against the glass. "We didn't win," he said to no one. A young officer near him looked up. "Sir?" "We reminded them," Ron said softly. "That's all. Just a reminder." The officer didn't speak again. She understood. Later, Rayan sat alone in his quarters. A small device hummed quietly on the table, a recording from decades ago. He tapped it. The voice of a woman filled the room, soft, strong. "You don't always fight with weapons, Ron," his mother had once said. "Sometimes you speak, sometimes you listen. But if they tear your voice, if they break your heart, then you fight. Not with hate, but with fire strong enough to burn fear into the stars." He closed his eyes. She had died during the last days of Earth's fall. He had been 10. He never forgot her face, or her voice. He carried them both into the silence. Elsewhere, on Council worlds, life tried to return to normal. Shops opened again, schools resumed, ships flew between moons. But nothing felt the same. Every citizen knew what had happened. No one could pretend anymore. Councillor Arian returned to his home planet. He did not speak at public events. He did not run for office again, but he helped rebuild. He started small. Schools taught history, not the edited kind, the real kind. He told children the truth about Earth, about what was done, about what was lost, and what almost happened. Lyra left politics entirely. She vanished from the public eye. Some said she joined a relief effort on a fringe world. Others believed she traveled toward human space, looking for something only she understood. The Council still existed technically, but the name was hollow now. It had no power, no fear behind it. Just paper, old buildings, and regret. On a quiet night, a child stood in the city of Zenel, once the heart of Council government. She wore a small scarf around her shoulders and held her father's hand. They were walking back from the market, past the giant tower that used to shine with light. Now it was just gray stone. The child stopped. She pointed at the sky. "Look," she said. High above, a small satellite blinked. It wasn't one of theirs. Not built by any Council world. Its shape was strange, its signal unreadable. Just a soft, pulsing blink. The father watched it for a moment, puzzled. Then something changed. On a nearby public screen. Just a blank one that hadn't worked in weeks. AI. Single line of code appeared. White text on black. The language was human. But the message was simple. "We are always watching." The screen flickered, then died. The child blinked. "What was that?" Her father didn't answer. He only held her hand tighter, and far away beyond. "Known space," Deep in the shadows where no maps existed, the human fleet sailed on, silent, patient, watching.